National news, specifically the war in Ukraine. When Donald Trump was on the campaign trail, he frequently made this particular promise.
That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president.
Well, Inauguration Day has, of course, come and gone. Now, 3 months later, it seems like the Trump administration might be the one on the verge of giving up. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaking to reporters just hours ago.
We need to figure out here now within a matter of days whether this is doable in the short term, because if it's not, then I think we're just going to move on.
These comments come one day after Rubio and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with European and Ukrainian allies, and they presented a peace plan that received a, quote, encouraging reception. Group chat is back. We're going to do a little international now. And there are some who benefits from a delay, because some people would say Russia is going to say, sure, you've run out of patience. Great for us. Tiffany?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's back up a little bit and say the only reason that we are in this position to begin with is, you know, you look back at the failed departure out of Afghanistan that emboldened the evils of this world, emboldened Putin to even take on Ukraine. So Trump is now in a position where he's cleaning up the mess from the previous administration. You know, President Biden drug his feet on getting weapons and just drug this out to the point where it is now. So President Trump is obviously the master negotiator. He's working also on making sure that this deal works for the American people, whether we can mine rare minerals.
Patience, dragging something out versus not dragging something out. You think that there is a limit to patience?
No, I think President Trump will get the deal done. I think they're working day and night. This is the first 100 days of his presidency. He's been working fast and furious, and he has made it very clear.
We just want to kind of address Rubio. It sounds like they're saying, look, short term, maybe not.
I just think back to that really chaotic Oval Office meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump, and the message that was being sent there was that we are running out of patience here. I hear that echoed in Marco Rubio's statement. They came a long way to get to the point where they are this close to a deal.
Came a long way very quickly, we should say.
Very quickly. I was shocked. So I think now what you're seeing is the same type of tactic moving forward, which is you need to move fast, Ukraine, or else we're going to lose patience. This is just sort of the deal-making process that you're seeing with the Trump administration. Quickly, though, the one thing that's interesting to me, Rubio being the person coming out with this message. Do you remember him during that meeting, Ani? He was sitting there slumped, not saying a word. Now he's the spokesperson. How the cards have turned over.
Because he was, when he was a senator, one of the people who was advocating for pushing back against Russia. And from what I recall, the invasion of Ukraine is blaming on Russia, regardless of what you think about whether or not the United States helped as much as it could or couldn't. This is a war that was started by Russia and their invasion of Ukraine. But the pressure right now that the Trump administration is putting on is on the Ukrainians, right, to settle this. Really, at the end of the day, Russia could just stop.
It's interesting for the point you made about Rubio, because for a time I thought, if Witkoff isn't there, is there really a deal? Like, I wasn't totally sure what Rubio is doing, or if he was on the things they didn't have time to be focused on. Is that a bad, I've heard that perception.
Remember that tension between Rubio and Musk, right? I think that Rubio wants to step into this role and make sure that he has power. This is one of the most important international diplomacy things that we're dealing with right now as a country. Of course he wants to be the spokesperson, the person who's managing it, because in the past I think he was taking too much of a back seat and he didn't like feeling disempowered.
There are still Republicans who are concerned about how the Trump administration is treating Ukraine. And there are still Republicans who are concerned about Ukraine itself. It's an intra-party conversation about the nature of the U.S. role in the world. So what happens now? Do they get to speak up, or do you think they've pretty much been shunted?
Who, Ukraine?
No, the Republicans who are pro-Ukraine.
No, I don't think so. I think everyone's voice is open at the table. But look, we have to get to a deal. And I think what we're seeing is a little bit of a pressure campaign to get this deal done. Zelensky did not have a good showing when he came to the White House at all. And, you know, he was talking to the American people who've given that country millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, no, I think Trump's laser focused on getting a deal done that works for the American people.
What are you going to be watching for, Nair, in the next couple of days? If we're running out of time, what are we looking for?
Yeah, the truth is, I'm not sure what the running out of time is based on. Is it just based on whether or not Trump has the attention span for this? Because this is a war that Ukraine is fighting for their livelihoods and for their land. And there's been zero pressure on Russia to do anything or pull back or make any concessions. It seems to be that Ukraine is being blamed for being the victim.
I want the...
When life gives you chaos, do you know what you do? You just make a Lego set out of it. True story. I found myself at Legoland and waiting for the family. It just made me realise that this Easter, the masterpiece, the Trump administration, should actually be an Easter 2025 edition. Kindly, the only Lego set where the pieces don't fit the instructions and everything's written in crayon, and as opposed to boxes on fire. First up, we have the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm sorry, it's a bit windy here. Led by none other than Elon Musk, because he streamlined the government. Remember, he fired, was it 77,000 federal workers? Still not sure. It's like Marie Kondo visited the White House and decided that, is that a plane? Don't fall from the sky! That's not funny. That none of the employees sparked joy. Next, let's talk about the Liberation Day tariffs. You remember President Trump declared April the 2nd as Liberation Day and imposed a 10% tariffs on all imports. Well, it started at 10%. Who knows where it's going to end up by the end of Easter? And nothing says liberation like making everything more expensive. It's like throwing a party and charging your guests at the door. Okay? And by the way, who can forget the hands-off protests? Well, most of cable news in America, they ignored the story. Millions of Americans actually took to the streets, demanded the administration keep their hands off of Social Security, Medicaid, and, well, everything else. Yeah, it's the first time in history I can think that people have protested to keep things exactly the same. Still not sure why that story wasn't covered by mainstream media. Well, legacy media is the correct 2025 term. Anyway, in a bold move, the administration decided to eliminate Head Start and make sweeping health cuts. Not sure about that one, because who needs early childhood education and healthcare when you can have, well, I'm not sure what you really get with the cuts. I have absolutely no idea what you get in return. Sorry about that. I'm just an outsider looking in. Anyway, let's not forget, since we're talking about cuts, the environmental policies. Is there anything environmentally actually existing which this administration is going to do? They propose changes to the Endangered Species Act, putting panthers, owls and turtles at risk. Because, sorry about the cliche, nothing says progress like endangering endangered species. There's a seagull, literally. A seagull flying around there. I see it. Anyway. In a twist no one saw coming, the administration sought corporate sponsors for the White House Easter event. That was hardly a surprise, because if you think of the resurrection of Jesus, you naturally think of product placement. Well, Trump does. You're just hoping, when's his family coming so he can stop wittering on while he's in the car? I'm waiting, I promise you. I'm literally outside Lego now, waiting for them to turn up. Anyway, there you have it, folks. The Trump administration Easter 2025 Lego set. It's chaotic, it's confusing, and guess what? It's missing half the pieces. And it hurts if you step on a piece not wearing anything on your feet. But hey, at least it's not, well, I was going to say boring, but you know, you'd rather it be boring. This Lego set is literally collapsing on itself. Remember, when life gives you chaos, wow, make a Lego set out of it. Maybe.
Great to have you here at Post 9. What a treat. All right, let's start on Powell. Sure. Just as a reminder, so Congress gives the Fed the authority. Can the president terminate, not that he said he's going to do this, but can he terminate Powell's chairmanship earlier than his ended term?
No.
Under no circumstance?
Nope.
So that's not a concern for you?
Does it? Well, I thought we were talking about legally, right? But this is a president who has shown himself willing to violate laws every place he goes, including willing to violate the Constitution of the United States. So that obviously puts things a little more in play than we ever would have guessed. But I really want to make a pitch here for a second about the importance of Powell staying in his job. Look.
And it's unusual coming from you. You're very critical of him.
I have tangled with him on a regular basis about both regulations and interest rates. But understand this. If Chairman Powell can be fired by the President of the United States, it will crash the markets in the United States. The infrastructure that keeps this stock market strong, and therefore a big part of our economy strong, and therefore a big part of the world economy strong, is the idea that the big pieces move independent of the politics, that somebody is making his, their, her best decisions economically and independently. We understand that if the New York Stock Exchange, if interest rates in the United States are subject to a president who just wants to wave his magic wand, this doesn't distinguish us then from any other two-bit dictatorship around the world where everyone knows what your big investment risk is. Will that dictator wake up in the morning and have a tummy ache and decide to cause this problem or favor that friend? That's why we need to strengthen the infrastructure.
But I know you are not the president, but
the level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
I guess the other question is, to follow up on Victoria's question, do you believe the president has the power to fire or demote you, and has the Fed determined the legality of a president demoting at will any of the other governors with leadership positions?
Not permitted under the law.
Not what?
Not permitted under the law.
Thank you.
Courtney.